graduate from this year onwards, so starting in October, we're going to take you through the 12-month property entrepreneur cycle, which is a very unique, very proven methodology, which is how you actually build a proper business in property. So tomorrow, when the Mastermind is finished, next month you're going to be joined by a lot of new graduates as Mastermind 22 finish and come and join you for the next cycle. To enable you to get as much out of the next year as possible, what I've done today is introduce, I've brought with us, I've invited 3 of our established property entrepreneurs, and they're going to share with you what they've achieved in their journey on property entrepreneur, and try and give you as much value from people who've already done it to make sure that you have the best year on graduate and property entrepreneur that's possible. So from October onwards, property entrepreneur is going to be delivered on Mastermind Graduate. It's the first time we've ever delivered this outside of our head office boardroom in Nottingham. On your desks there's a copy of the prospectus. This is for the board, which is now sold out for this year, but thankfully we're going to be joining, the majority of you are going to be joining us on Graduate as we go through the next 12 months cycle. So the focus for today is to give you as much value as possible. In your workbooks you should have a number of sections. The presentations are very, very similar in structure, but are very, very different in content. And what I'd encourage you to do over the next 90 minutes is take as many notes as possible, because what these guys are going to be doing is distilling down. Some of them have been on this on Property Entrepreneur for 4 years. They're going to distill down all of their key learnings to try and get you guys out of the tracks in October as quick as possible. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is a friend of mine, been working together for several years. He did Mastermind, Simon's Mastermind program, and has gone on to become an award-winning property entrepreneur and developer. I'd like to invite to the front Kevin Edge. Cheers, Kev.
Right, good morning. So my mic's working well, that's good. So my name's Kevin Edge, so I'm just going to talk to you about my experience for the last couple of years working with Dan on the Property Entrepreneur Board, tell you what it's meant for me and my business, what it's meant for my life, and share with you the journey really, so hopefully that'll be of some value to you. So I thought I'd just give you a bit of a kind of a brief outline of kind of how I've got into working on the board and kind of how I got to where I am now. So I started probably about 4 years ago. I was on MM17 with my good friend Lukey. So I mean I started probably similar to everyone else really, kind of looking around. I run a construction company. I wanted to get into property investment and kind of where do I start? So I started looking around trying to find out who was doing some teaching, and you probably recognise a handsome chap up there. And I saw one of Simon's videos and I thought he sounds like the kind of guy I want to work with. I like the sound of him, seemed to have good morals, kind of looked up a bit more about Simon and I thought that's the direction I want to go in. It probably all started in the same kind of place really. So I did the 3-day and then went on to the Mastermind course, which I found really valuable. I mean, it kind of was a life-changing moment for me, as I'm sure it was for some of you guys. And on the Mastermind course, I kind of heard about Dan Hill, and Dan was doing the Systems Day. I don't know if anyone here has done the Systems Day as well. Thank you. There's a couple in the back there. That's good. So I got huge value from doing the Systems Day. And so it was a property course, but I run a construction company. So I found there was a lot of business sense in doing that and a lot of systems that I could apply to my business that I have done. And that offered me huge value. And I thought, well, I want to know more about what Dan's offering. And I heard about, at the time, it was called Venture 5. So there was an opportunity for us to join that. So I signed up for that a couple of years ago. And for me, running a construction company, as I say, the systems were like really helpful for running my business. I didn't mean to press that then. Just want to get some water. So running the construction company was kind of really helpful for using the systems and the knowledge, the entrepreneur knowledge that we were learning on Dan's course was really offering a lot of value for me. But for me also it's about property, it's about getting some freedoms. I'm sure it is for a lot of you guys too. So it's a financial freedom that I wanted, but the business really supports me moving forward with that. So my journey, I started in sort of 2015 with Dan. Last year we won the Property Investors Award. It was only last year, so I can still keep talking about that for the rest of the year apparently. So it will get mentioned again later. And 2017 for us at Civic, and I'll talk a bit more about this in a while, it's been about property development. So it's about the progression of this property investment and the progression of the business. So really it's been about finding land, it's been about kind of building for the future, and going into 2018 is going to be about delivering them projects. And a lot of that has been what we've learned on Property Entrepreneur as well, on the board, about kind of planning out the business. Another thing I should mention is that this is the first time I've done clickable slides, and I'm really proud of that. So the bullet points, thank you. The bullet points are going to come down one at a time. They used to all come at once, so I'm really proud of that. So just to give you an idea of kind of what it's meant to me really for the last sort of couple of years, sort of the beginning of 2016, we started I was in an office, I did have a bookkeeper, she'd just gone, so I'm now in an office on my own, and I've got an outsourced bookkeeper. And really the benefit of using that was taught to me through Property Entrepreneur as well, how to have systems I can work with people who are not obviously directly with me. So that offered a lot of value. By the end of 2016, 2018, I'd done a lot of learning. I was putting things into place. We had an outsourced PA as well. She lives in Leicester. Never met her. I've worked with her for a year and a half, and she offers me huge value. And again, it's through having systems that we can work with, that we can leverage and make value. During the winter period, and we'll talk a bit about kind of what that means in a minute, but during the winter period of 2016, 2017, we learned about recruitment. My experience previously had been to kind of look for people as I needed them. We started looking at recruitment as a real business skill, as looking at who I'm going to need and start recruiting for who I'm going to need in the future. And in order to do that, you need to know where the future is going to be for you. Sounds quite obvious, but you've got to go plan that out. So my recruitment became less reactive and more planned, and that made a huge difference to the business. And we learned about the systems and processes for recruiting, who you're going to need, and how to get these people. And I found it hugely valuable, kind of learning with Dan and doing that firsthand on how to recruit people. Beginning of 2017, we recruited 4 staff. So within a year, I've got a senior quantity surveyor. So this guy, again, we're going to talk about vision a bit more in a minute. This guy has joined us. He's come from like a £70 million company down to like a £2 million company based on our vision of the future. So we recruited a high-level quantity surveyor. We've recruited a REBA architect who's working with us now and helping us to deliver real quality projects to our customers, and also in a development that we're going to be moving into. We've recruited a bookkeeper who's a qualified accountant, and she's stepped down because it offers her a bit more flexibility working with us. But she can also see the vision of the business. We've also got ourselves a construction director. And we're only able to do this because I can tell them where we're going. If I couldn't tell them where we're going, they're not really going to buy into that. And I think it's kind of really important, I think, for you guys who are, I mean, some of you I recognise, some of you I don't. Some of you are already running property businesses. I think the key is to know where you're going, to really be clear on the vision, and then people can buy into that. I think that's offered me huge value. In the springtime of 2017, I completed my first business plan. Now, I've always thought it's a good idea and always written a few sketches, but never kind of got around to doing it. It's been hugely valuable. As an exercise in itself, it's been hugely valuable to kind of clarify what we're trying to do and how we're going to do it, and the parts that we need to realise this vision, but also to recognise that it's a tool to use as we go through the year. So to use it on a monthly basis, so talking to Dan, I now have meetings with my team on a monthly basis. I presented the business plan to them in the first month, and they all thought, oh, that's a great idea, Kev, thanks very much. And then we come back to it the next month. That was a bit of a surprise, because it wasn't something that's just a great thing we're going to put in a cupboard and leave to the side, but to really use it as a tool going through the year, to really use it as this is where we're going and this is how we're going to get there. Now let's monitor our progress. I just found that hugely valuable. We went away to Crete, which was also very nice. We did that for 4 days. But it was also great to do that. We had sessions in the morning, sessions in the afternoon, and then we went off and worked. But to be in a kind of confined environment where we're all working on the same thing and really kind of feeding off each other was really helpful. And then this year, the summer's been huge growth for us. And I think it's, again, it's partly having a vision of where we're going to go, then you can take people with you. If they don't know where you're going, how can they? And that's really been clarified for me by doing a business plan. And it's clarified because they're able to buy into that too. They're able to see what we're doing, where we're going. But really important for me to actually get that structured and written down and kind of work out what I need to produce, where I think we're going. And now coming back into the autumn and winter, so I'll talk a little bit about the seasons, but it's something that we do on the Property Entrepreneurs, kind of looking at the business year in seasons. Winter, spring, summer, autumn, we know what they are, right? But looking at how that reflects in a business, and this comes from Roger Hamilton. I mean, I've been to Bali and I've been to Africa at Roger Hamilton and learned a lot about kind of wealth dynamics with him, but I know everyone here has probably done their profiles, and you know a bit about Roger, and he's like a genius, and he kind of talks on this level, and it's fantastic knowledge, but how do you apply that? And like working with Dan, I've really learned how to apply that in the business, which has been hugely helpful. For us, 2018 is looking like we've got some fantastic development opportunities. And again, it's been about kind of planning out how we're going to do that. So again, this is going back to the vision. That's been the most important thing for me. We've got some fantastic opportunities, probably about 5 or 6 different sites of like sort of 9, 10 houses, but they're not going to be produced just like that. We have to kind of plan out how we're going to make that happen. And that's really exciting. You've got to watch for the graphic in a minute, right? This is going to be good. Okay, so I was talking about wealth dynamics. So we know a bit about wealth dynamics. I think I've preempted my point really, but I mean, really using wealth dynamics for recruitment, the different profiles we need for certain parts of the business, how we build a team around that, been hugely important. But not only as just a recruitment tool and kind of knowing what profiles people are, but what stages we are as a business. It's really important. Roger talks about how a business moves through different seasons. How it moves through different seasons in a way that it kind of develops, but also through a year. And that's really important to see the way it operates. And we use that a lot in our Property Entrepreneur. And again, another game changer for me has been the recruitment. Really using recruitment as a tool, understanding where we're going and really recruiting the right people has been huge. Focus and planning. You know, it's so easy to get caught with the shiny pennies. It's like 1 minute I want to do HMOs, and then someone's talking about service accommodation. That sounds great. He's doing really well. He must have it easy. I'll go and do that. Or someone else is doing single lets and they're doing really well. I'll go and do that. Someone else is doing flips and he's just made 100 grand in a week. I'll go and do that. So we're always chasing the shiny pennies. It's so easy. I don't know if you guys can recognise that in yourselves. I've certainly done that. Thank you, Paul. You're the only one. I certainly do that myself. And to stay focused and to have a plan and really stick to that plan and say, right, this is my business plan for a year. This is where we're going to get to in a year. This is how we're going to do that and really stay on plan. It's really important. Who followed the shiny penny? Who followed the shiny penny? Another thing we learn is GSD, get shit done. So, but how you work, you know, it's easy to say, oh, we want to get all these things done, great. But how you work on a day-to-day basis, how you work on a weekly basis, how you plan your days, how you get the most out of the time you've got, you know, what kind of hours you're going to work, where you're going to work, what you're going to try and do. And there's a lot of processes we go through that I've really learned a lot of value from. I think something which has been hugely powerful for me is kind of working with other committed individuals, and I'm sure you find that here as well. And I found it hugely valuable. My friends in the rear there, and also, you know, the rest of the board. We all get to different stages. We all have like similar challenges, and kind of sharing them, learning from each other, being in a trusted environment where we can kind of all support each other. It's not always easy, you know. Sometimes you get really great highs, don't you? Sometimes you get great lows, and kind of pulling each other along. I found that hugely valuable. My top tips for you going through the year, really on what I've learned, and I've done it 2 years now. I learned more of this in the second year, I think, than the first year. So really doing the work as it's given to you at the right time. We talked about the seasons. So there's certain things you're going to do in winter that are really going to help you in your summer period. And these really reflect in all property businesses. If you do your preparation in the winter time, summer's going to be much easier for you. And that's tried and tested, and I've really found that to be the case. And I really recommend that if you're going to commit to the program, to really do the stuff at the right time and trust the process. And maybe you want to be doing something else and you feel that maybe it's not the right time to do this. Trust the process. I think, as I said, my experience was really being in a group where we share with each other and being open and really sharing the journey of each other and supporting each other. And I'm sure you do that here already. And I think certainly it's an action program, so it's not a turn up once a month because it's a nice place to be. I mean, these guys are good fun, right? But I don't go there just for the once a month. It's really about getting the work done. So you've really got to commit to, you know, if you want to make a change, you've got to put the effort in. Kind of we know that, but it's just to reiterate that for ourselves, and really even for me, you know, we can all be slackers in some level, can't we? But you've really got to put the effort in to get it out. There's something we do called Sunday Sanity, and hopefully you'll be introduced to it on this part of the program. But again, it's similar to you know, the GSD, get stuff done. It's organising your week. It's getting prepared for a week on a Sunday, so you hit the ground running. It's having a week that's planned to your bigger picture. Having an idea of where you're going really helps you to get there, and then each week is a step on the way. So planning that out is incredibly powerful. And we found, I'd certainly find being in a group that really helps. Like we've got a WhatsApp group, and we have to submit our week's plan, and that's really helpful because there's always someone who gets in before you. You don't want to be the last one, right? And I think certainly be disciplined. I think it's similar to the first point. Like be disciplined in getting the work done because, as Shakespeare says, time and tide wait for no man. Time will carry on. The seasons will keep changing. If you don't get the stuff done in winter, it will soon be spring. So be disciplined. I mean, the top 3 results for my business, Deal of the Year. So we won Deal of the Year 2016. I may have mentioned it already, but I'm going to mention it again. It's a big achievement. It's a great achievement for me. It was a great achievement for me and for the business. And also it was really well supported by Dan and the board, and I want to recognise that and thank you for that. To be kind of celebrated by your peers and be supported and be shown how to maximise exposure of that. You know, Dan's made sure I've got my award symbol on all my slides wherever I go, and it's really important. This year we're going to increase the turnover of the business by 70%. And that's a big number, right? And to be in a board where that can be recognised, that's a big number. That's a big challenge, Kevin. You need to be aware of that. And to understand it won't be easy. To understand that at times it's right that the engine's going to creak a little bit. And that, as Paul says, the wheels will fall off. It's not going to be easy to recognise that. And to be around people who are doing something similar. And we're getting to a new place. I think, for me, you know, looking back on my slides as I prepared this, I think it's all about having a vision. I think that's the important thing. And having a vision, I can build a team that's going to be able to deliver that. If I don't know where we're going, I don't know who we need to get there. And they don't know where we're trying to get to either. So we're all walking around in a bit of a mess. And that sounds kind of obvious, but it's surprising how many times we kind of do that. How many times we can trip over in trying to deliver that. And I think being in a board with a group of peers, understanding that, you know, sometimes we don't give people enough direction, you know. We expect people to be able to read our mind. What's that?
Can't they do that?
No, they can't do that, apparently. You would expect so, right? You would expect so. But we can expect people to read our minds. You know, I'll get an architect in and kind of put her in a corner and say, well, can you do some architecture, please? So what does 2017 and to 2018 look like for us? So really it's about building out larger scale developments. And again, it goes back to having a vision of where we're going so I can get the right people on board to do that. You know, I can't build like 3 sites of 10 houses. I don't have the knowledge to do that, right? But there are people that do. And I can only get the people that do if I know that's what I want to get done. So I think that's really important. So we're going to be building out large-scale developments 2017, 2018. So they'll start next year, basically. And for me, it's about increasing the financial freedom for me personally. So this is kind of why I joined Simon's Mastermind in the beginning, to give myself some freedom. I'm sure a lot of you guys did too. And that develops into chasing further business dreams, as it has, and that's been a great journey for me, but also I want to make sure I'm kind of covering the bases too. So, you know, working with people in the board, the connections I've made there, how to increase my financial freedom. And I think definitely putting more systems and processes into the business. Getting the business as it is, the small construction company that's just, you know, I say small, it's going to be doing like 3.5 million, so it's a reasonable construction company. Getting that to run on its own, getting that to be able to, and yeah, it's a bit of a dream, right? Same as passive income. It's a bit of a dream, right? But get it to work more on its own. Having the systems and the processes that the business can support itself with minimal direction from Kevin. So Kevin can go chasing the big dreams because I've got the vision, that's what I'm going to do. And really we're looking at partnerships for the larger projects with the right people. So, you know, working with more of the right people to kind of leverage each other. And that's something I've learned from Dan as well, particularly this year. Kind of, you know, finding who you can work with. There's only so much I can do, making the right partnerships. So I was looking for I was going to leave a quote, right? It says that you can leave a quote on your last slide. And I was going to just download something from the internet. That's what you do, right? But I thought, what do I feel when I was making this slide last night? And what I felt was that I'd really look forward to kind of sharing part of the journey of anyone who's going to be part of this. Anyone who's going to be on the board would be fantastic. And anyone who's participating in Property Entrepreneur through the graduate program, really look forward to sharing the journey with you. So it's a great journey. My experience has been that it's been hugely valuable for me. And I've really enjoyed sharing it with my friends at the back now, and I'd love to share it with anyone else who's going to do that. I don't know how much time I've got left, but I think that's it.
So we've got, just before Kevin flies off, did anyone have any quick questions for Kev before he heads off back to St Albans? Yes.
It's just a question based on both of you, really, with the seasons. I'd love to think that that's how I could run my business. However, when I do most of my work is in the winter time when I'm stuck in an office, and when I want to go on holiday in August with everyone else, that's when it sort of slows down for me. So when you say the seasons are the way they are, is that the way you suggest to run it, or can it be opposite for people? Or because I just find summer for me is like a wind down, then leading up through winter, and then spring's probably my most busiest time. So.
Do you want to take it, Kev? Or
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about my experience, and then you know you can add more to it, Dan. I mean, my experience has been personally running my business that there's an overriding season. It doesn't mean that the rest of the business kind of stops. There's an overriding time to do things. And having done it for 2 years, like the first year, I'm not sure I kind of really got it. Second year, I got it much more.
Yeah.
So in the kind of winter time was a time when a lot of things have slowed down really, you know, the energy is a bit more inside. There's not so much kind of frenetic energy going on.
Yep.
And for me, that was a time to kind of learn about the processes and put the processes in place that are going to help when the frenetic energy starts a bit more in the spring and the summertime. Might be slightly different. What's your business?
It's well, just started a letting agency, but it's predominantly, you know, HMOs really.
Yeah, right.
But it's like everyone you want to talk to in August is not there, or
Yeah.
You know, August and September for me is just
Yeah,
right
so
off.
Dan can speak more about that, but for me it's definitely been that winter time's a time to do the preparation work. Winter time's kind of the time to come inside, okay, what happened last year? What were my challenges? What processes, what systems I need to put in place that are going to ease that next year? And so I found that kind of winter was a time to do that, and that's what was recommended.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably three key elements to pull out of that. So the first about seasons is businesses don't grow in a linear fashion. It's impossible, especially if you want to be fast growth, businesses don't grow in a linear fashion. They don't grow and grow and grow the same way as an athlete wouldn't, you know, race and race and race. They actually go through step changes and they grow in a cyclical nature. So imagine your businesses through this year as a piece of elastic. We go through the growth phase where you stretch the elastic. As it starts to become frayed and damaged, you know, you stretch it as far as you can. Then you regroup, you repair, and then you go again. So businesses are they grow cyclically, not in a linear fashion. Probably the second thing is there's two types of seasons. So you've got the calendar seasons. So, you know, now it's the last day today of summer, and you'll feel the energy in the calendar seasons change. The days will get shorter. There'll be less growth outside, lower energy. People become less active. There's the calendar seasons, and we adopt those. And then you have the business seasons. So if you think about professional lettings, professional HMO lettings just happen to run in the same cycle as the calendar seasons. The summer's really busy, and the winter can be, you know, in some areas absolutely dead. They run in the same as the calendar seasons. But if you think about industries that are different, so the example was that actually during the summer, the business is quiet. Businesses have their own seasons. So if you think about retail, during Christmas, which is winter in the calendar seasons, it's actually summer for the retail sector. Like 65% of retailers make a loss. Obviously, 42% of statistics are made up on the spot. I read a report once that said 65% of retailers make a loss every month apart from the 4 months of October, November, December and January. Like around that, that's their summer season, although it's the winter. So there's lots of things to observe and you will get a feel for it. But the main thing is to understand that your business has to go through seasons. You can't grow and grow and grow. And then the example, we use the analogy of a car, which we're going to talk about all year. A car, when you're racing a car, you wouldn't try and take the tyres off. You know, when you're scaling your business, you don't try and change the systems. It's all, there's a time and a place for everything. Anyone got another quick question for Kevin, or should we excuse him? Thank you very much, Kev. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Can you stop the slides up? On the desktop, there's a slide deck too. So pulling out a couple of bits from, so thank you very much, Kev, for your presentation. For those of you that saw the deal that Kev won on the Property Investors Awards Deal of the Year, it's without a doubt the most lucrative deal of that profile I've ever seen. So if you haven't seen it, go and check it out. And what Civic are doing in their industry is very, very impressive. So those of you doing anything construction-wise, I recommend spend a bit more time with Kevin. Just pull a little footnote, you're going to hear vocabulary through these presentations, which might not just make sense yet. So Kev's talking about Sunday sanity, the seasons, all these things. All of that will become second nature to you as we go through the process, but just feel free to pen those down and we can look into those. Kev talks about recruitment. Many of you will be sitting in the room at the moment and you're hesitant to recruit because it costs money. That's the first step. So landlord to investor is getting that confidence to start building a team. We start off with freelancers, then part-time, then full-time. There's a very clear process we'll take you through, but recruitment is going to be a key part of you stepping forward. And you will get to a point where you go from investor to entrepreneur, where you start to see people as an investment rather than an expense. And when you get that confidence, it doesn't happen straight away, but it's really, really powerful. And for fast growth companies, it's very important. Shiny pennies, Kev talked about. You know, we're all absolutely guilty of that. make sure you stay absolutely focused. And during October, October, November, December, 3 months on strategy will give you a very defined plan, which you then execute through the year. And this isn't rocket science. What I've taken in building Property Entrepreneur is all of my learnings from the mentors that I've had, the experiences I've had building my businesses, and then we've created it into a very, very straightforward process. And as you learn it through the year, you'll understand it's not rocket science. It's very, very straightforward. The challenge you're going to have is, do you actually have the ability and the capacity to successfully execute? That's all it's going to come down to. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our second speaker, who is without a doubt the king of execution on both Property Entrepreneur and in Multi-Let UK, which is a partnership that we run together. Ladies and gents, can we please invite Paul Lanfear to the front?
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Paul.
Is that for me?
It is for you, thank you.
Hello. Wasn't Kev amazing? Basically, hugely successful, but authentic from start to finish. Shall we give Kev another hand? Okay, so, as Dan says, my name's Paul Lanfear. So, who in this room has a property business? And of those people, who is actively looking to scale in the next 12 months? Okay, so that's everybody. So we're in the right room. So Dan has very kindly asked me to basically share my journey with you, with the intention that you can get the most out of the next 12 months in your property business following the Property Entrepreneur methodology. And it is a methodology. So what I'm going to do is talk you through that and give you a bit of an insight into why I might be speaking to you. So I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back several years. And there are some familiar faces here who will remember this. I'm going to take you back a few years. Interestingly, it was in this building, although not in this room. Bright lights, music blaring, people in celebration mood. It was the end of our Simon Zucci Mastermind year. And my business partner, Liz, is also my life partner and my business partner, and we had made it. The intention was always to get in the top 5. My slightly ridiculous point of view on it was there is no point doing it unless you get in the top 5. That is clearly a ridiculous point of view. Anyway, we got into the top 5, and we were standing on the stage. Liz, I cannot believe it. We have finally done it. All of the effort, the stress, the strain, all of these deals, finally, it's all come into place. And we've made it. We are property entrepreneurs. And I thought we had done it. A few months later, you find me sitting in my office. So I've got a beautiful office that overlooks a beautiful garden. It is a very relaxed and tranquil place where I spend a lot of time doing work. But I was not relaxed, and nor was I tranquil. I was looking at my desk, and across my desk, I had all manner of different things. My profit and loss, to create, not just review, but create my profit and loss. My balance sheet, of course, to get on top of that, to understand that and all its complexities. My rent roll, my overheads, my recruitment. I realised that maybe I had been a bit naive, and maybe my work was not yet done. I think this is particularly true because I was a corporate warrior. So I spent all of my time up until this point in corporate life. Has anyone else shared that experience? A few of us? So the reality is you don't recognise, unless you have responsibility for it, you don't recognise a P&L. You are not in control of recruitment because you have a HR department that deals with it. So I was faced with these challenges for the first time, and challenges they definitely were. Moving forwards another couple of months. I'm back in another conference room at another property event. This time, there is a guest speaker, somebody you might recognise, Mr. Daniel Hill. And I was sitting there listening to this presentation, and for the first time in a long time, I have to say, things began to make sense. And a lot of the challenges that I felt I was dealing with suddenly, were beginning to, I could see some commonality. And at the end of the presentation, Liz came over and she gave me some advice, and I have learned to follow her advice. And she said, look, Paul, this is really strange. This is really strange. You and this Dan guy talk about all the same things in all the same ways. Don't you think it would be a good idea that you go and speak to him? And of course, I happily, on that occasion, took her advice. I approached Dan and I agreed to meet, and things progressed. Where they progressed to was this. We would meet up once a month and have lunch. And I would bring a new problem to lunch. So, problems. I've got this real lack of clarity, Dan. I'm not quite clear where the business needs to go next. Okay, so we'd look at some strategy. We've hit the level of my expertise in terms of operating P&L and balance sheet. Okay, so we'll look at finance. We've hit capacity, literally. We are so busy, we cannot do another thing on our own. Okay, well, let's look at recruitment, and the list went on. So we would do this, and things progressed. Then a few other people joined us, and that became Venture 5. And then we opened the door in the boardroom, and Property Entrepreneur, the board, was born. And the methodology that you're going to experience over the next 12 months is the methodology that we do in that boardroom. So, been asked to share some of our successes, and of course, I'm very, very happy to do that. So, when we left Simon Zucci's Property Mastermind program, we had basically built the portfolio. The portfolio was very, very solid, good high-yielding portfolio, in a good, robust position, but it was just that. It was just a portfolio. So the first task we undertook was to create a business out of it and systemize it, which is what we then did. We then decided that now we had systemized the business, it was in a position to scale. And several of you have indicated that's what you want to do, so that's what we did. In the space of 12 months, we doubled the number of units that we had in the portfolio. Not effortlessly, but certainly in a controlled and systemized way that worked very, very well. At that point, we realised that we could no longer use external letting agents. Not that we remain very good friends with our letting agents, but the reality is they could not cope and they could not deliver the service that was our intention. So we looked into the marketplace and we thought, well, what are we going to do? We've got a couple of options. We can build from scratch a HMO portfolio management business, or we can look for another option. So the option that we fixed on was to approach Dan. So we asked Dan, Multi-Let UK is the market-leading HMO management service in the UK. We'd like to buy the back office. Very flattering request, Paul. It's not for sale. A couple of weeks later, Dan, about the back office of Multi-Let UK, we'd like to buy it. Again, Paul, very flattering request, but it's not for sale. So obviously, I sent in the big guns. I sent in Liz. And even with her unlimited charm, the answer came back, Multi-Let UK, back office is not for sale. So I thought, okay, we need to think again, because I'm not building this thing from scratch. So approached Dan and said, look, we need to think about this differently, Dan. What can we do? And the conversation went on for some time. And as a result of that, and so some very detailed negotiations, some very, very detailed legal work, Multi-Let Leads was born. Now, I know a number of you have been following in some detail the journey that Multi-Let Leads has been on. And to give you an idea of what it is, it's a genuine joint venture. So our respective holding companies hold the shares, and it's a genuine joint venture. And that journey, interestingly, the first leg of it, as I know a lot of you know, has come to an end. In fact, it came to an end yesterday when we got from 0 to 200 rooms. And yeah, the first leg of the journey is over, and I'm very pleased. So I'll talk a little bit more about where multi-let leads might go from, but that's the journey that I have been on, and those are the kind of successes that I have seen by adopting and incorporating the property entrepreneur methodology, which is what you're going to do over the next 12 months. So the other thing that Dan has asked me to share about is how to make the most of it. So I'm going to share 5 things that, if you adopt them, I promise you will be absolutely game-changing in the next 12 months. And if you don't, we'll see. So, this first one was taught to me by my very, very first mentor. And I think if you can embrace this concept, absorb it, it will make a truly profound impact, not only in your business life, and we are really talking about business lives, but I also think on a very human level, you'll see some really important distinctions develop. And that is, be impeccable with your word. What you're going to do as you go through the early stages of the property entrepreneur methodology is you're going to do a lot of work around vision, strategy, and then you're going to create a business plan. And I think this is probably the most important thing that I've taken from one of my first mentors shared to me into what I've done in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, is whatever you say you're going to do, absolutely do it. Like, absolutely do it. Because something really magical happens. When you do it, even if there's a cost to it, even if you don't want to, even if when you do it, this thing in your life turns up, and it's trust. And it's trust in yourself. And trust is an interesting thing. When it arises in yourself, what you tend to see is that you attract people who also have that as a very, very high value. And you also notice that business life gets very, very straightforward with the people that you're dealing with, because you're all operating with that kind of frequency. Also, on a very, very simplistic level, and I don't mean to be blunt, everybody talks a good game. Everybody talks a good game, not just in property, but everybody. And there's a difference between those that talk a good game, and there's a difference between those who show up. Okay, moving on. So, you're very familiar with multi-let. The next piece of the top tip, again, a huge learning experience for me personally, is really the difference between going the distance, creating remarkable businesses, or struggling along. And that's partnerships. So multi-let leads is a partnership, and really the foundations of its success lie in the strength of that partnership. And we've all witnessed in our own lives good partnerships and how effective they are. We have this thing, we have this kind of reptilian brain that still sits in the back of our skull. And it warns us that everything is a threat. Has anybody here recently had to run away from a lion? No one. So this is the kind of space that we live in. We live in this reptilian space sometimes where everything is a threat, everybody is out to get us. It is an illusion. It is based on old software that is no longer relevant for the environment in which we live. There are no lions. Certainly not here. So I would ask you to embrace this concept, is when you're looking at a new strategy over the next 12 months, is not so much the question now, particularly for the people in this room, how am I going to do this? The question is, who out there can I connect with, work with, partner with, that, to have a mutually beneficial arrangement. And if you think about it, Tony Robbins has been talking this for a long time. He's talked about turning decades into days through partnerships and what have you. Okay? So, the next piece of advice. This piece of advice was given to me by one of my very, very best friends. In fact, he's my daughter's godfather. His name is Paul, and he owns a media business down in London, just off Brick Lane. As you can imagine, he's got a great beard, and he's got pretty tight jeans most of the time. he's got some retro bikes, and he rarely wears socks. So this is who we're dealing with. And when I explained the concept of multi-let, he gave me these words of advice. He said, look, Paul, just do what all the startups do. Embrace it. Fail forward, fail fast. And that's what we did. So, and I would really urge us all to embrace this as a concept, to basically stare failure straight in the face and literally embrace it. Because we've been very, very successful. All of the businesses in Property Entrepreneur have been very, very successful. And it's by embracing this concept. So I'm going to just illustrate something on the board if I can. And some of you will be very familiar with this from your own life. So we have like a measure of success of some kind. We have like a period of time in which we invest it together with effort. And there is this illusion, and we know it's an illusion. We all accept it's an illusion. We have this illusion that, you know, basically people successful kind of start here, they put in some effort, they follow the plan works out beautifully, and they end up with their goal. That, thank you. We all know that is just the illusion. So my advice to you is fail forwards and fail fast. Is literally fail, 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 fail. At which point, all of your competition will have the good sense to take themselves out of the race. But no, fail, 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 fail some more. And then suddenly, my experience is, it all comes beautifully together at the end, as if by magic. So my advice for success, fail forward, fail fast. Does that make sense? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. My penultimate piece of advice is this: pick your battles. It is as simple as this. We cannot do it all. It is impossible to do everything we want to do. People talk about the shiny penny, but even in your own strategy, you can't do it all. You can't fight all of the battles you want to. So for the next 12 months, when you're following the Property Entrepreneur methodology, pick your battles wisely. Like really, really focus in on what the one thing is you want to achieve. You may have many of them, but focus in on that one thing. And then with all of your determination, focus, and only pick those battles that take you in the direction of travel of that result. I promise you, if you just did that alone, your results would be extraordinary compared to picking every battle and shouting at every barking dog, which is, as goes the expression. And the final thing is easy to do, easy not to do. Anyone remember who said that? Maybe, I was thinking Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn says this, he said, take care of your body, it's the only place you've got to live. And I say easy to do, easy not to do. I think you are going to experience pressures over the next 12 months if you've got worthy goals to achieve. And you do have to take care of this thing. And one of the things that we talk a lot about on the program is performing like athletes. And one of my friends, Phil, he designs programs specifically for high-performance athletes. And he begins the design of these programs specifically from the point of recovery. That recovery is basically the key to high performance in athletes. And you are in very much the same boat. It's going to be pressure, 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 and then recovery. Pressure, 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 and then recovery. And the best thing you can do is to take care of your body. It is the only place you have to live. Does that make sense? Excellent. So, where next? Where we go next is, one of the things we talk about in the program is finding the next wave to surf. So within the context of our Property Angels business, we have studied the markets very, very carefully, and we have created a new way of doing what we're going to do. And it's a new investment model, it's a new process, it's a new system, it's a new product. It's going to be refined over the next few months. It is the next wave for us. We're very, very excited about it. Yeah, that's the next step for us. So we're going to be working with our current, but also new investors in this new model. And yeah, the future is very bright. I'm very excited about that, taken to the market. Multi-let, where's multi-let going to go? Well, we have got to 200 rooms, or 201 rooms. Where we're going to go from here, just looking at the business as it now ends, is as we go into the autumn cycle, we're going to make a few refinements. My personal view is, even with the current resources that we have, we can scale multi-let leads considerably, even on its current resources, with just a few refinements as to process. So what are we going to do? Go out to the marketplace, connect with landlords, investors, entrepreneurs and leads who have portfolios of one or more multi-lets and look to take on and board their management. For the same people, if they're looking to exit the market because of the turbulent changes that are coming, again, we're looking to acquire those portfolios. And we're also looking to connect with people in the lettings industry and leads who manage rooms and in reality don't wish to. And we're looking to acquire on very, very favourable terms entire portfolios of management rooms. So that's where multi-let is going. The other thing that I'm going to be focusing on is Property Entrepreneur. It is my very, very great pleasure to be the host in the boardroom when we run the Property Entrepreneur board. It is the thing I most enjoy doing. I'm very looking forward to sort of sharing the journey with the members of the board. Finally, I know a lot of us are already connected, but if you wanted to track back the multi-let journey, one of the best things you can do is come and find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I use both platforms a lot. If you go onto either of those platforms, you will see the whole journey of multi-let from 0 to 201 rooms. The whole thing has been documented from start to finish. So it's all there. You're very welcome to connect. Also, if you're interested in partnering with us or working on any of the projects or getting involved, contact me through LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn a lot. You're very welcome to seek me out. So, my final thing I would say is what we share on the Property Entrepreneur Programme, which is success and failure are both very, very predictable. Thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure.
Very good to see it start to finish. Well done, Paul. If you want to stay with us for a moment. Anyone got a quick question for Paul? Yes.
A general question, really, Paul. We talked about the seasons buying in and buying into the programme as we go through.
Yeah.
One of the things I was talking about earlier in our own little board was the challenge of getting somebody else who might be another director in your business who's not going to be directly involved in this programme. Okay. Somebody who's got a very, very different mindset, somebody who exists happily in a state of chaos, and that's their words, not mine. Yeah. And getting them to buy into this sort of thing when they're really not into anything other than what they keep in here.
Yeah. Cool. So we all understand the question. Like, how would you're obviously going to take on board a lot of new information, and you've perhaps got a business partner that isn't in this environment, that hasn't been exposed to the information that you have, and there's that risk, that obvious risk posed there. I would honestly say, and this is my experience, but being in business, to a large extent, is just a series of difficult conversations. Has anyone ever noticed that? Am I the only one? No, exactly. So it's just another conversation. That's just all it is. It's we all, to be successful in everything that we want to do, really the fundamental skill that will enable us to do that is to become world-class communicators. That's our job. That's our challenge. We need to embrace it. Once we do that, it's not going to be easy, but that's the direction of travel, just to become a world-class communicator and just be able to work with your business partner in that way. Communication is a two-way process. You know, that you just have to perhaps communicate to them in a way that they understand. In the way that, I mean, for example, do you have children?
No.
No. So does anyone have children here? Yeah. So you would perhaps speak to your child in a particular way. I'm not suggesting your business partner's a child, that's a bad analogy. But no, but do you know what I mean? It's like you step into somebody's environment, you speak the language they understand, and you're sympathetic to their concerns. Equally, as you go through the programme as well, one of the things that you might do is look at the relationships between different, in terms of wealth dynamics, the relationships between the different profiles. And there is quite a lot of work you can do about how different profiles should communicate with each other. And that's certainly at the appropriate point. I'm sure Dan and the rest of the team would be happy to talk to you about that.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Lovely. It's a very valid question as well. So just to add a little element to that, in the prospectuses you've got to take away, basically in written copy, we'll explain the process at a high level, start to finish. So if you do have a business partner, a life partner at home who wants to understand what the process actually entails, if you use that document, it'll use the prospectus. The first half of it is training material to explain to you. If you find a couple of hours on Sunday afternoon, read through it. It will give you a really good head start on next month. The other thing as well is there's pros and cons of having your partner on it. So we currently have a business partnership on the board. One of them joined in 2015, did a year's cycle, did really, really well. But then his life partner and business partner, who owned another company, joined as well. And they definitely got more value from both being on it because they went through it together. But what they found the value in the first cycle was that he was getting challenged. So he was coming back after the whooping and the high fives and the excitement's all finished in here. He was going back and saying, right, we're going to do this. And then he was getting challenged with, obviously, the logic. And there's a lot of value in that, in being challenged about your assumptions, your interpretations of what we're talking about. So there is pros and cons of both. Before I excuse Paul, I just wanted to offer him, we have a little something at the back. I just wanted to say a quick word for Paul. So Paul's my business partner in multi-let leads. And it's been a project that he's delivered over the last 18 months. For those of you that are going to go about building your businesses properly, you'll appreciate that it's not easy. Whilst I say the methodology is easy, the process of actually going out and executing is very challenging. You've got change to do with, you've got resistance in your teams, in your markets, you've got marketing campaigns you'll have to launch, and they literally run like this. And we know this. We've been building businesses for 15 years, and we know that this is work. The guy digging for diamonds. Work, and it literally turns on a penny and it all comes together in the final straight. And we know this happens, we know that it works, and we've proven it year on year. The reality though, when you're at the coalface and you're having those dark days, you're having those challenging moments, to be able to execute through that is what will separate those of you that succeed over the next year in taking this methodology forward, and those of you that struggle to make the progress you're actually hoping to achieve. Paul has executed absolutely relentlessly, and he actually won the Pulse Pinnacle Award for highly commended ability to execute at our Pulse party this summer. He's the best example of how to execute against a plan. It's been 18 months of graft, but I'd like you to all join me in congratulating Paul. After an 18-month journey, he's built multi-let leads to 200 rooms. Congratulations, Paul. Well done for getting there. Cheers.
More champagne.
I did text Paul this morning and ask him if he wanted to go for a drink afterwards, and he said he'd like 15 drinks. But congratulations, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Whilst we sort the slides over, and before we invite our next speakers and board members to the front, just a few points from what Paul said. So Paul talked about the problems. So when we started working together in 2011, 2012, and Property Entrepreneur was just in my head, there's only 5, we managed to boil it down, there's only 5 problems you're going to have as people in property or people in business. The first is a lack of clarity. So the first is a lack of clarity. The second is a lack of systems, a lack of consistency. The third is a lack of finance. There's 2 types of finance. There's cash flow finance, which is the blood of the business, and there's the capital finance. That's the growth funding. The fourth is a lack of capacity or expertise. And the fifth is a lack of good quality leads. Every single one of those, every single problem you have will fall under one of those categories. And over the next 12 months, I'll take you through each of those problems one at a time and show you how to overcome that. Paul talked about being impeccable with your word. One thing you're going to learn over the next year as well is not just business. There's a lot of life hacks, a lot of life tricks about how to make life easier for yourself. And being impeccable with your word is one example of that. And it's not that you have to... It's being very, very savvy and careful about what you say yes to and becoming impeccable with your words. You're going to learn lots of little life tricks to just make things easier and make you feel better about your day-to-day. Partnerships is a huge one. If you're not already following me on Facebook, follow me on Facebook and you'll see that every single business we build is completely structured around partnerships. It's how you get step changes. You know, PPN UK is only 5 years old. And if you look at the companies in there and the size of them, there's no way you can achieve that as a, you know, organic growth or self-funding business. It's all about partnerships, and we've done some amazing partnerships this year. So, you know, check those out. And then final sentiment, just before we invite our next speakers up, is business is hard, business is challenging, and it is going to be tough. But if you understand what to do and when to do it, find the energy and the discipline to enable you to effectively execute, what you'll find is the darkest hour is genuinely before dawn. And it is that dip. Like it just happens. As we go through these step changes, it's going to be tough, but the darkest hour will be just before dawn, and that's when it picks up. And there's only 5% of people in business, 5% of entrepreneurs that actually get to that point. The others, you know, go for the grass being green on the other side, chase the shiny pennies, give up just before it's about to turn a corner. So, you know, focus and be disciplined over the next 12 months. Trust the process. We'll all go through it together, myself included, and just, you know, have huge confidence. The guys that you've seen present today and the other board members on Property Entrepreneur get the results because they're disciplined to execute. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our third and final board members to the front. It's Phil and Josh from Zest Property Group.
So obviously Dan's asked us to come and speak today a little bit about what we've learned on the programme. There will be snippets that you'll take away from, you know, there's some similar material that we're going to kind of reiterate from Paul and Kevin, because it's just so valuable, such valuable content that we've applied to our business. Who has seen us speak before? Anybody? A few at the, I'm not as famous as before, brilliant. So a few of you have, not many, which is great, but what we like to really do is give you as much value as possible. We'd much rather get through 20%, 25% of our presentation, but you're all asking questions and really getting the value you want out of it than get through the whole thing. So feel free to ask questions at any point, engage with us. I think we're relatively friendly people, and hopefully you can get as much content as value out of as you can. So I'm going to get us started. And this is Phil, by the way. Hey guys. So who are we? We are Phil and Josh, as you already know. And we run 3 companies. We run Zest Property Management. Now this is, we're based up in Greater Manchester, for those of you who don't know, based up in the north. Neither of us are actually from there, but that's where we like to work. With Zest Property Management is a specialist HMO letting agency, so we specialise in high-end professional house sheds. That was born out of the fact that we couldn't really find, like, similar to what Paul said, we couldn't really find any letting agency that could do the job for us. We run Zest Portfolio Builder as well. So Portfolio Builder was an actual plug-in to Zest Property Management. That's where we source HMO properties for investors. We renovate them, then we pass them on to Zest Property Management. Typically, our clients tend to be time poor, experience poor, but relatively cash rich. There's a lot of people down in the south, down in London, that are kind of putting equity out of houses and wanting to invest into the powerhouse of the north. And lastly, we've got Maintenance, Maple and Construction. Sorry, Maple, Maintenance and Construction. This is our kind of newest venture. It's a maintenance company which currently just services the Zest Property Management portfolio. That's something we're going to be launching in 2018 and making it a bit bigger. So I'm going to pass you on to Phil to give you a bit of background about our company history and how we got started.
You're going to continue working the clicker?
Yeah.
Okay, you keep control. So, I did Mastermind 3 back in the day, so there's not too many familiar faces from back then, but I do recognise some of you guys. And Hands up here, anybody who is the only person that's currently in their business, the only person that's running their business at the moment, who's just themselves running everything. Okay? So those are people who haven't put their hands up, I'm assuming you were there at one point. We've all kind of been there at some point. We start on Mastermind, we get really enthused, we start buying property, we get really excited, we start heading towards the goals, much same as Paul was saying at the beginning. We head on towards this vision of financial freedom and, you know, a nice, easier, stress-free life. We're going to have these properties, going to be cracking, loads of money coming in. And it's, in reality, very, very different when you start getting your first properties on and you have to start dealing with the issues and the problems and acquiring all the skill sets that you need, not just to then acquire property, but then to manage them. And this is the situation I was in after finishing Mastermind. I'd acquired a number of properties and I was quite happy with where I was and I was having a wee bit of money, but I had no time at all. And all the novelty and excitement and all the initial challenges started wearing off. And what I was left with was the daily grind and the soul-sucking hassle that often comes with properties. Not that I had bad tenants, I had wonderful tenants. But at this point, I was finding properties, trawling Rightmove, negotiating them, going viewing them. At that point, I was actually on the tools as well, doing it myself. I wanted to know how to put windows in and how to lay a laminate floor. So YouTube can teach you absolutely anything, so don't be scared of that. In addition to that, I was also finding out what I should write in adverts to advertise the rooms. I was finding out where I should advertise them. I was then tweaking the adverts, learning as I went. I was then fielding all the phone calls, speaking to the tenants, vetting them, finding out what you're supposed to do with vetting, finding out what you're supposed to actually have with an AST, what's supposed to be in it, what's not supposed to be in it, where I can get one from, tweaking it, making it your own. You know, literally everything. Chasing arrears, kicking people out, finding other mentors, every single thing that you need to do in a property business and more I was doing myself. And I had reached the point where I was no longer had the motivation to push myself to do things I didn't want to do and also things that I'm not naturally good at doing. And I didn't have any time to do the things that I wanted to do, that the money that I was getting, quite a lot of money at the time, was actually giving me the freedom to do. I didn't have the time to be able to take advantage of that. And I was very, very tired and very, very close to just going, I can't handle this anymore. Originally, I didn't bring anybody else in because I didn't think anybody else could do the job better than me. I'm sure one or two of us also feel the same, that nobody else can do the job better than we can. We were having the chat this morning. But we reached this point where even a monkey could have done the job better than I could. So I realized that I needed a wee bit of help. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I don't even remember how I actually heard about Dan Hill. It must have been through one of his amazing marketing channels. But somehow we ended up on the phone. I remember sitting in Costa Coffee chatting to Dan, having a little conversation about it, where I wanted to go, what I needed to do. And at this point, my aspirations were that I wanted to increase my turnover and increase my net profit. I had three distinct goals. Turnover, profit. I wanted to make my portfolio 100% legal and 100% bulletproof to remove the stress and pressure of you get a phone call from someone or a knock on the door and you're not quite sure which story you've told that person or which address you're supposed to be living at or which mortgage product you've got that one on and which one you haven't. So I wanted to have it all absolutely bulletproof so that nothing could take it away and it was all solid and I could just relax and chill out. And the third and most important one was I wanted to free myself up from 95% of the daily activity within the company. And those were my three very, very distinct goals that I had when I met Dan. Dan very quickly identified that the very first thing I need to do was to establish a team, much as the guys have talked about. And I went about doing exactly that, followed exactly what he told me to do, went out and found the team. Josh and I had already met a number of years earlier when Josh was a student, and I asked him to come in as a bit of work experience and help me create some kind of spreadsheet. Didn't even know how to open Excel, let alone work it. So Josh was helping. But the very, very important distinction is Josh didn't know how to do it either, but YouTube can teach you all sorts of things, and he had the gumption to go in and actually find out. He's now an absolute wizard on it. It's insane. But you make from it what you want, any opportunity. And we very quickly expanded up to a team of three. I then ran into a lovely lady called Alex in a networking event, in one of the PIN events, who stood up and said that she wanted a bit of experience in lettings. So all the pieces kind of fell into place because I was looking for it and my RAS was turned on. My strategy for the year was via rent to rent because I needed to increase my turnover very, very quickly to be able to pay the people that had come on to help free myself up from the business. So rent to rent, as far as I saw at the time, was the best way of doing that. In addition to that, I was also sweating my own portfolio and turning those properties which were appropriate to do so into multi-lets. And then when we got to a year later, we had tripled in size. My turnover had indeed tripled. My net profit had doubled, so we were able to cover the overheads and things. My portfolio was 100% legal and 100% bulletproof, so the stress and pressure had been taken off me considerably. And the most important, which was being able to free myself up for 95% of the day today, was answered by the fact that I was just begging for one day off. That's all I wanted, just one day off without phone calls, let alone a weekend, let alone a week. And this all culminated in me going to Vegas for 3 weeks with my family. And all I ended up doing was responding to 2 emails for the entire time. And that was only because I was buying a property at the time, which I hadn't handed over to anybody else. So from being absolutely mad, busy, on my own, lonely, bored, not enjoying it, to working with 2 incredibly high potential individuals, having a great time in Vegas with my family, having a great time, was quite an achievement in my first year, and I was delighted with that. Thank you. Decided to go around the track again because I thought, well, if this is what I've done in the first year, just watch what's coming next. So we went around the track again, and then we decided that we were going to continue scaling it. In actual fact, this is when Zest Property Management was formalized. Up until that point, it was just really a way of managing my own portfolio, as many of us have already done. We decided then to start taking on an awful lot of other people's properties as a way of increasing the turnover, and also there was nobody else really doing it, so kind of first mover advantage, and also being able to build a good net asset. We created Zest Portfolio Builder purely out of ease, really, because we had all of the pieces of the puzzle sitting there right in front of us. And we had so many people coming from London, very, very switched on investors who just didn't have the time. They were very, very busy in their careers. They're very happy doing what they're doing, but they just wanted to be able to release the money they were releasing from their properties in London with their ridiculous, ridiculous growth down there, and put it into something else where they had potential more legs for growth in Manchester, which was starting to kind of grumbles around about the northern powerhouse, as well as getting the much better yield. So then we formalized Zest Portfolio Builder to be able to provide that service. And we were in a very, very unique situation in that because we had the lettings business, we knew very, very well what would let and what wouldn't let. So we were in a very unique situation to be able to advise people, this is a very, very good area. If these are the kind of tenants you want to manage, you want to buy in these areas, avoid these kind of areas. It was quite a unique selling point from all the other people who were doing sourcing at the time. Then we get to May 2016, everything's rocking and rolling. We expanded the team further. We brought on Toby and also a lettings person to take Josh out of the equation of doing the lettings. And everything was absolutely flying. We're doing brilliantly. I then got some bad news and had some health issues and ended up stepping out of the company until January or so of next year. And within that time, if Josh clicks the next slide, you will see that it actually probably did better without me than with me. It's very, very offending. But it's very, very reassuring to know that the company had started actually taking on a life of its own, whereas it had kind of all been born out of my little baby, and now it's starting to take on a life of its own. It's very, very exciting and a bit disconcerting as well when you see something start taking on a life of its own. As Josh mentioned, then Maple Maintenance Construction was created, kind of in answer to the forthcoming admin fee ban, to create an additional revenue stream. And in addition to that, because we couldn't find another company that could keep the high level of service that we were guaranteeing to our landlords. So we wanted to bring that in-house as an additional revenue stream, and also so we can control the speed and the accuracy with which we're doing those things, and to quieten down the noise of complaints from tenants. All the growth was going absolutely perfectly. We set our business plan. We knew exactly where we were going. Everything was 100% on schedule. And then, as a result of all of the phenomenal seeds that Josh had been sowing during the spring, they all kind of came to flower at the same time. Both a blessing and a curse, a bit of a victim of our own success. So we had 2 options. We either went, this is not within our plan, we're growing a bit too quickly, or we take on the challenge. What basically happened was we had a growth from July of another 70 rooms within our growth plan, and all those 70 rooms landed in the 1 month. So we had a quick call, a crisis call with Dan, said, what do we do? He said, it's landed at exactly the right time, summer, make hay. So we decided to take on the challenge, and we are only about 6 6 days away from finishing.
Yeah,
6
we
days
are,
away
yeah.
from finishing. And Josh being very, very prolific on social media, putting that out there. I'm sure you can find when connect with us at the end, and you can follow that journey. So it's been a really, really great campaign for us, how to fill 70 rooms in 12 weeks. And the team have absolutely pulled the stops out, and everyone's pulled together. It's been absolutely phenomenal. And we are pretty much set to smash the living daylights out of that target. So we're only 6 days left, and then we're off on a lovely little retreat with the team to reward everyone for such amazing work and stuff. So
We'll give you the details of social media then, but it is worth looking at that just because it's a very honest account. It's not, oh yeah, it was easy, we smashed all this, smashed all that. It's all the blood, sweat and tears gone into it, all the mistakes we made. It's, for any of you that are looking to start your own HMO letting agency or scaling your portfolio, it's a real honest account of how hard it can be to achieve something like that. And we'll share all of everything we can, very open book. So it's worth looking up.
boo-hoo, Josh, boo-hoo. So, in the same way as everyone else has covered off the 5 big game-changing points, we just wanted to tell you what our 5 were. Now, obviously, some are going to be already have been covered in some capacity by the other guys, but this is our account and our point of view, so we wanted to share these with you. I'm assuming when I did Mastermind, they didn't have wealth dynamics within the program. I think you guys do it standard within the program now, don't you? Yeah. So you have a very, very good understanding of wealth dynamics. I had heard of it, but I'd never actually experienced it or discussed it, or I didn't know what I was at the time. This is one of the things that Dan suggested we did from those first 3 or 4 months within the program when I started, was to build the team, because that was going to be key for me to be able to step out of the business and be able to start working on it, as we all want to do, to be able to then hit those targets that I'd set for myself. So we had to set up the team to begin with, and this is something that will be covered in much greater detail during your own program over the next year. But very, very overview, we needed 3 positions. I was taking the position as the creative star. Actually, out of interest, who here is kind of creative star, top right corner? Okay. So I took on the role of the driver in the company. I was driving the business forward. But then what I needed to do was I needed to have somebody delivering the business. Who here is kind of more down the bottom right-hand corner, supporter, trader role? Okay. So you need to put somebody into that role as well to be able to actually take forward the conversations with the tenants and to actually do the viewings and those kind of elements of the business. And then the final piece of the puzzle for me, which I definitely did not have, was the detail, which is down the kind of Lord, mechanic, accumulator route. Who in the room is mechanic-y type people? Wonderful. I do not get it at all. Don't get it at all. Anyway, but those 3 pieces of the puzzle, when they came together, absolutely game-changing for me, because I had myself driving the business forward, playing to my own strengths, working within my own wheelhouse. I then had Josh working on the delivery side of actually implementing the business and taking it all forward and making sure it all works on the ground. And then we had Alex in the background doing all detail work, the accounts, all the books, making sure that everything is reconciled and squared away. And that was massively game-changing for me, massive. In actual fact, we had you in the wrong places. And the other thing that Wealth Dynamics does is it opens up a dialogue of a similar conversation, of a similar language, I beg your pardon. In fact, Dan touched on it a wee while ago, that some of the terms and phrases that we're using might be a bit alien now to you, but within a year it'll be a common vocabulary between all of you. And that's another huge benefit of working with the friends at the back, is that you speak a common language, so you're able to discuss things much more quickly, much more effectively as a common language that you've learned throughout your program. But the Wealth Dynamics, Josh was actually coming in to do the detail work as a chartered accountant, as he was when I met him. And Alex was coming into the lettings, said she wanted to do the lettings. And then we did the Wealth Dynamics just out of interest and found out, in actual fact, totally in the wrong positions. Luckily, they would just be swapped over, and after that, we just absolutely flew. So it makes a massive difference, everyone playing to their strengths. You can learn the behaviors. Josh had learned to become a very good accountant, but it wasn't really where he flew. And when he shifted across to something that was much more in his comfort zone, he took off. Thanks, Josh. Seasons is something we've talked about quite a bit today already. Dan touched on it a wee bit earlier. We run a lettings business at this time, so it follows very, very smoothly with that, in that you take the race car out on the track during the summer and you're flogging it around the track, absolutely shredding the tires, seeing how quickly you can get round, having a great old time, sales in the lettings business. And then you start coming into autumn time, when you start listening to the grumblings of the engine, start thinking about if the steering's a wee bit soft, if I need slicks or if I need something a bit more grippy. And then you come into winter time when you can bring the car into the pit stop. And then you fix all the things they've identified during autumn that you want to address. because it's a wee bit quieter in the lettings business, so you've got a little bit more headspace to be able to take the time to do that. And then once you've done that, you're ready, car's all shiny again, ready to rock and roll. You take it out on the track, you start going around the track, get familiar with it again, starting to warm the tires up, test everything's all right. If anything's not quite right and it's a quick, easy fix, you can tweak it. But apart from that, you're out. And then summer hits again and you're around the track flogging again. And that was massive for me because my brain is really all over the place. And it helped to create a real structure for the erratic thinking that I had. I was really full of ideas and exciting things, and I'd just drop them wherever I had the idea. So I'd start fixing things in the middle of summer when you're inundated with lots and lots of lettings and sales, and you should be growing the business, not fixing back office. And it was really good to know that it was going to be addressed, but I put a pin in it and address it when it came time to autumn and then winter again. That was a massive game changer for me.
So third element, which has been an absolute game changer for us, is this concept of nothing can be arbitrary. No one's going to mention this today, but it's been absolutely massive for us. We've taken so much out of it. So first, you've got to get clarity over the numbers that you have within your business. If you don't have accounting package or anything like that, you've got to get real clarity over where you're at. And then you've got to really kind of use KPI statistics and numbers to really plan where you're going to go. I mean, the kind of concept, the classic example of being arbitrary, like who here's said, when they started, they go, right, I want to get 10 HMOs, I want £10,000 a month passive income. Yeah, I've seen some smiling faces. That's what everyone does. It's an arbitrary, oh yeah, that's what I want to do, that's what I want to get out of it. And we were doing the same. We were setting, right, we want to get to 300 rooms this year. And then we'd actually look at all the numbers and actually realise, well, actually, if we go to 300 rooms, knowing our capacity, we're going to have to bring a new member of the team on. So there's no benefit to go and add that extra 50 because we're having to pay for somebody else in the office to manage them. And it's kind of absolutely game-changing when you start thinking like that. You start looking at all the capacity and realising big is not always better. And it's much better to get to a size which you know is the right level, number of HMOs that you know is the right level, but you're also going to be able to manage and not create yourself a massive job as a result of it. So nothing can be arbitrary is one of the things we've really learned, and we've really built that into our business model going forward. Another element is kind of growth mindset. I mean, Paul put a quote from Jim Rohn on the board this morning. Who here listens to Anthony Robbins, Jim Rohn in the mornings when they wake up? Yeah, everybody. It's very easy to listen to, isn't it? You have that 10, 15 minutes and you come out of that feeling exhilarated. Oh, that was amazing. I've got all this motivation now. It's absolutely fantastic. But how easy is it to apply? When you're having one of those really crappy days where you've got, I wanted to go out and buy all these properties, you've got you're managing 5 refurbs at the same time, and you're absolutely manic, doing absolutely everything. You've got trades pulling out at the last minute, and then your investor for your new project pulls out at the last minute. How easy to then go, oh, this is all good, this is all part of the process, this is great, I'm learning from this. It's not easy, it's really, really challenging. A big part of being on that board with the rest of the fellow board members is a classic example which Phil mentioned. That growth mindset starts to become embedded with you because it is discipline. You have to have discipline to really get that in you and turn every problem into a nice little challenge. A big part of what we did was with this 70 rooms challenge, the initial thought was like, oh my God, what in hell are we going to do? We said yes to all these landlords, we didn't plan for it all to happen at this time. It's a massive problem. Having the conversation with Dan, speaking to everybody in the board, going, this isn't a problem, this is a great thing to be doing, this is a fantastic bit. And the business is going to grow to a level, and we're all going to learn so much out of this process that it's going to be absolutely game-changing for us, and we've come out a lot better for it. So it really helps you kind of tweak your mindset and really get you in the G'd up and actually utilising all these motivational videos and stuff like that in your actual mindset and in your day-to-day helps you apply it.
And front-loading forward funding. Front-loading, essentially, the largest part of front-loading that you'll experience over autumn and coming into winter is planning out your business plan for the entire year, as Dan mentioned. That's the absolute epitome of front-loading. You decided through the non-arbitrary figures exactly where you want to go to, why you want to go there, and then you then work it back from there. And every single step along the way is planned out and written down and committed to and created and cemented into your business plan. It might as well be written out of stone, like one of the Moses tablets. And then you just absolutely execute against that. And the reason for doing that is that when you're absolutely mad busy in all the mayhem, or a shiny penny comes along, or somebody else drops in and says, oh, you could do this, it's going to be like a really, really quick hit for you. You've got this money come out, you just deploy it here for 2 months, and then you can jump back in again. It's really, really easy to get sidetracked. But if you are front-loaded, then you're already committed. So you've done all of the work at the beginning. In addition to that, one of the main parts of your business plan will be your marketing strategy. One of those might be an email strategy that you have for landlord lists, which have been exhausted by obviously everybody. But if you were still doing that, you could decide you're going to send out a series of letters or a series of emails. Now, previously to this program, I would have gone, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do that, write the first one, put it out, right, it's 2 weeks later, time to put the next one out, but then I would have had 5 refurbs drop in my lap, and I'm going, oh, God, so it had gone out a couple of days late, and then it might have been a bit rushed, and I might have missed some key points, and you start to lose momentum. When you front load it, you write all of that marketing campaign right at the very beginning, right in the winter period, so that when you come time to execute, just click a button and it's all automated. You don't have to think about it, and you can spend your time then capturing all the leads and all the benefits which you should be spending your time doing, which is the whole purpose of putting that marketing campaign out there. In addition to that forward funding, sometimes you have to accept, I think it was Dan said at the very beginning, or Kevin, that you're going to have to start recruiting some people if you want to scale and you want to grow. And it's really painful when you take on that massive overhead at the beginning and that person's not yet up to speed, or you don't have the need for that much capacity where you're going. But you recruit for where you're going to, you don't recruit for where you are now. So sometimes that means taking a painful decision to take on somebody at 26 grand a year when they're actually only probably able to utilize half of their time. But you know that when you get to where you're going to at the end of the year, their salary's going to be more covered and more, and then you're going to be in a much stronger position to go forward. So that's the benefit of forward funding and also front loading. So our time on the board, oh, sorry, I see my friend.
No worries. So really, really important for this element that you're going to do, and it's not just for property entrepreneur, what you're going to be doing for next year on the graduate program, is be really clear what you wanted to get out of it. As Phil reeled off his elements at the start, and he mentioned that you had the three really kind of important set goals. And we, for the last couple of years on Property Entrepreneur, it's all been about growth, and it's been about recruitment, and as for Phil, it's been kind of taking himself out of the business. There's 3 really kind of clear objectives, and we've executed that really, really well. Property Entrepreneur will provide you a methodology. You've got to apply it to what you'll be doing yourselves and make sure that it aligns with the goals and what you want to achieve. Does that make sense? Yeah. Secondly, trust the process. I think a few people have alluded to the pain that you go through in certain seasons and some of the bits where you can't see how this is going to work. We talked about 2 of the board members challenge each other, and I think it's Mark would go home and speak to his wife and she'd go, what are you talking about? It's very, very challenging. You've really got to trust the process. All these things like seasons and systemization and springtime planting seeds, it all sounds like nonsense at the start, but you've got to absolutely trust the process because it does really, really work. When you're in your winter season and the guy's telling you, oh, it's winter now, you're not out to make sales, you're in here to systemize, you're sitting there thinking, I could be out here making 3 or 4 grand, or bringing another sale and bringing another landlord on. You've really got to trust it, because everything you do in winter, which you're not necessarily going to enjoy, the steals amongst you, the lords amongst you are going to really enjoy it, but the dynamos amongst you are going to hate that period. You want to be out and speaking and chatting to people. You've got to trust it and embrace it, and unless you do that, you won't make as much of it as you could do.
Accountability, I don't think, is a problem for many of the people in this room, although we all have moments of weakness where you just go, I just can't get off the sofa, just finish off watching X Factor or Hawaii Five-0, whatever's on telly. We all have moments of just going, I can't be bothered today, it's just hard. I don't want to make that phone call, that deal that's a wee bit beyond where I am at the moment, is a bit scary. It's easier to put it off than to make the difficult phone call, or to crunch the numbers late at night when all you want to do is put on your pajamas and cuddle up or whatever. You need to have accountability, because although we're all very driven and motivated in this room, which is why we are where we are, you will have moments where you go, oh, blimey heck. And having a room of people, as you have now, that you trust and respect and admire, that you need to say very clearly what you intend to achieve and what you intend to do, and you lay it all out on the table, there's nowhere to hide. You don't want to be the person that turns up the next month going, yeah, I didn't quite do that. Not that anyone's going to openly berate you. I mean, slag you off behind your back, but they're not going to openly berate you, but it's yourself. And the other aspect that I think Paul alluded to was be absolutely 100% true to your word, because the accountability, just imagine how accountable you need to be when somebody else's salary depends on you executing on what you said you're going to do. There's nothing that's going to hold you more than that. It's absolutely phenomenally powerful, it really is.
I think another lesson from accountability that we've done this year is, Paul's talked about it, he's talked about his 200 room campaign. It's been all over social media. This is what I'm going to do. We did it with our How to Fill 70 Rooms in 12 weeks. The first thing we did was, even when we were terrified of the challenge, we stood up and we said to Manchester Pin, this is what we're going to do. We told everybody, and then instantly you become accountable for it, and we've just delivered against that because we've had to. Otherwise, it's a very public failure to us.
This is a massive, massive one for me.
Mr. Kevin Edge there with his award.
Yes, look
We'll
at him.
plug it again for him while he's not here.
He's so jet set, he had to leave to another meeting, you see. He's not even here to
Off
hear
to
it
Bali
all.
now or India.
To be kind to yourself, I think is massive, really, really huge. And this is, I think we're all guilty here of being really hard on ourselves because we are driven, we are focused, and we want to achieve, and we want to set the world alight and leave a legacy and all these kind of things. But what I would ask you to do, and what's really, really good for me, is remember that you're choosing to be here, you're choosing to play a bigger game. And it's really hard to berate yourself and to feel really guilty that you're not achieving. So acknowledge that what you have now in your lives and who you are now as a person is enough. And you're absolutely brilliant. But you've chosen to put yourself in this environment and create comfortable self-induced accountability to put yourself out your comfort zone because you want to do more or you want to achieve more. So with that, though, becomes freedom because you're able to then go, yes, I've not quite hit that, or I've not quite done a £2 million deal as my fellow board member has done. However, I'm really comfortable where I am and where I am in the journey. I've done a fantastic job. So it relieves the guilt and it makes the journey much, much more enjoyable. You're choosing to be here. And the final thing is, better speed up a wee bit, is your network. Being in an environment with people who you trust, admire, and respect is absolutely phenomenal because they're all on different part of the journey. They all have different experiences, different skill sets. And when you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, it's fantastic to know that somebody who else has been there before you or is a few steps ahead of you in that particular aspect is there to be able to call on and say, I need a bit of help here, or I've thrown myself at the deep end. I've gone and taken 70 rooms on in a month. You know, what do I do? And it's great to have somebody that's able to do that for you. In addition to that, we're able to also be there for our friends and colleagues in the property entrepreneur and also in the board as well. So it's really, really hugely beneficial to have that network and that powerful surrounding support. This, as we've already said, was my main goal initially, stepping out of the business. Who here, probably going to be just me having my hand up, who here thinks they could realistically, guilt-free, no question of a phone call or an issue or problem, take a day out of their business? Who thinks they could? Keep your hands up if you think you could take a weekend out with no problems. Keep your hands up if you think you could take a week out. Literally no problems, no guilt, no problems, no hassle, no concerns. Few went down. Keep your hands up if you think you could take 3 weeks out without any problems, any concerns. Fantastic. Keep your hands up if you think you could take a year out with no hassles, no problems. Fantastic, good job. And in addition to that, not only hope that your company's going to be there when you turn around again in a year's time, but it's actually grown and it's probably doubled or tripled in size. And it's leaving a legacy to protect your family and provide for them and to make a real difference in the world. That's what being involved with Dan Hill has meant for me in my business. It's provided me that security and knowing they're going to make a difference in the world. Whether I get hit by a bus outside, or whether I decide to never come back to the company, or whether I decide to start a new venture, it runs anyway. And that, for me, is absolute game-changing.
Secondly, we've experienced some phenomenal growth. We tripled in our first year, we doubled again the year after that, and then we just more than doubled again in our third year. We've just done this in the last year, 109 to 254 rooms in a year. It's not been about its challenges, but it's been one of our biggest successes, the rate of growth that we've managed to achieve over the last few years, which has been really exceptional. And a big part of that has been going through the Property Entrepreneur Programme, doing as Dan said, the Elastic. Just keep doing that and following the seasons has been absolutely game-changing for us. We wouldn't have achieved it without it.
And attracting talent is the other final thing. Zest now has a reputation and it has credibility. We're market leaders in Greater Manchester. We're the largest and also the best, in our opinion, and many others, in Greater Manchester. And we're very, very proud of what we do. The product that we have and the service that we provide is second to none, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And as a result of that, we no longer have to go fishing and trying to hook in a tenant or a landlord or an investor or a team member or a mentor. These people start to get attracted to you. And it's really, really been phenomenal for us to start moving to become a magnet with a really good reputation that stands for something that other people want to get involved with, having a really clear identity of what our why is, so people get attracted to us as opposed to us having to go and do the hard work and try and reel in each individual person and hope that people don't see the fact that we're faking it in the background and putting like bugger underneath and they want to come and work for us. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
So what's next for us? I think some of you may know Manchester property market is booming at the moment. There's so much investment going to Manchester. If you go yourselves, you'll see loads of cranes all over the place. There's loads of government initiatives going into it, so it's just absolutely rocketing. So for us, we're really trying to capitalise on that market. We're taking no more landlords 2017 for Zest Property Management. As you've seen, we did the year's worth of growth and we're stopping that now because we're only built for 255 rooms. So we're stopping that now for a little short period of time. But as a result of all that growth, Zest Property Management, because we thought it was going to be a much more staggered approach, as any sane human being would expect, over the next 6 months, we've got a bit more capacity for Portfolio Builder. So we've got no spaces in 2017, but 2018, we've now got another 3 to 5 spaces for investors that want to invest up north in Greater Manchester. So we're looking for more investors. We've got some deal packs on our website. So if anyone's interested in the kind of returns, whether you're interested in Portfolio Builder or just looking at more HMO deals, we're happy to share them with you. Just come and give me a business card at the back. Thank you very much, I guess. We're Zest Property Group. You can contact us on Phil and Josh at zestpropertymanagement.co.uk. Feel free to take a picture of this site so you've got all the details. And you can also get us on Facebook at Zest Property Management, Zest Property Manchester and Zest Portfolio Builder. If you want to like and follow us on there, we share a lot of valuable, what we think is valuable content, and you're all welcome to follow us and share the journey. So thank you very much.
Well done, gentlemen. Very impressive. We're not going to have time for any questions, but these guys are going to be around in a moment for any questions to take away. Was that impressive? Yes. Excellent. So we're just going to excuse them from the stage, ladies and gents. One more round of applause, please. We're going to go straight to lunch now, but just a few closing sentiments and to round off getting ready for your Property Entrepreneur Programme to start next month in October. So a few points just from what Phil and Josh shared. The first is that nothing is arbitrary. In your businesses, nothing should be arbitrary, whether it's somebody's salary, how much you're going to charge for something, the margins you should generate, how much you're going to grow. Nothing should be arbitrary. So if you ever hear yourself saying, how much should we charge for this? 5,000, 10,000. There should be a reason for everything. I'm going to take you through that, but nothing is arbitrary. If it's arbitrary, what we see a lot of people do is take very, very lucrative small businesses and ruin them by trying to make them big businesses. And they're too big to be small, but they're too small to be big. And it's really important to understand that. That's around commercial balance, something I'll share with you in the winter. The second is Phil and Josh have been doing this. So Zest started out as Phil on his own. Those of you that are on your own at the moment, one-man band, want to take it bigger, understand that these things take time. Property entrepreneur is a way of working which you should take on after this year for years onwards. Things take time, and although that business might be what some of you aspire to, it's taken them 4 years to build it. 4 years of doing this, and you do get better every year. Second year is always better than the first on Property Entrepreneur, but appreciate that things will take time. Just stick with it. And then finally, setting you up for next month, Phil started out his journey on Property Entrepreneur 4 years ago with a very, very clear target. Mainly that he wanted to have a week's holiday and ended up going away for did what he was going to do and ended up having the best part of a month traveling America. He wanted to get a holiday. And the second was he was a one-man band. And if something happened to his business or something happened to him, his business would really struggle to survive without him. And not only did he trust the process, he built the business out, but he didn't have a week or a month off. He had to take a year out of his business through no choice of his own. And not only did he come back and the business was still running, it actually over doubled in size during that period. It's really, really important to understand what it is you want to achieve. So as we go away for the next 4 weeks before we meet together in October and we start the journey, the first thing I'd like to encourage all of you to do when you go away is think about what do you actually want to achieve. Is it more money? Is it more time? Is it bigger offices? Is it bigger business? Is it recruiting a team? Just because the whole of autumn is about strategy. Go away, think about what it is you actually want to achieve, and then from October, November, December, I'm going to support you to build your business plans out to enable you to achieve that. Thank you for welcoming our board members today. Hopefully in a year's time, we'll have some similar performances to share in September next year. Otherwise, ladies and gents, thanks for having us today. Enjoy your lunch, and I'll see you in October. Cheers.